going to do when it comes to the WNBA? How are we going to approach this season? What should we expect, especially when it comes to the Indiana Fever? Let's talk about that with John Nolan. He is the Fever play-by-play voice. And, John, thank you for joining us this morning here on the Daily Tip. And let's just go ahead and get the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark question out of the way. That seemed like a pretty innocuous foul, and even Angel Reese admitted as much after the game. Is this sort of rivalry, is this good for the sport, or are we getting to the point where it's becoming a little bit overblown?
Michael, Chelsa, good morning. Thanks so much for having me. One thing, first off, to be clear on, my mom has worked as a clerk at a pharmacy for a long time, but that's as close as I'll come to prescribing anyone anything for a fever. I'm not qualified. I don't know if I'm qualified yet even to break down this little mail. I mean, that'd be too strong of a word, but to break down whatever we had here between the Fever and the Sky. One thing as the W rises in popularity, they're trying to lean into rivalries, not only this one, but around the league. So come August, there's actually a nationally sponsored week, just like we had in Major League Baseball this past weekend, right? It was branded as Rivalry Weekend. So come August, it's going to be Rivalry Week presented by Ally, and so it will be a game between Indiana and Chicago. They're actually playing each other 5 times this year. The Fever don't play anybody else more than 4 times. Leading up to this one, that said, despite the fact that Caitlin and Angel have the 2 highest Instagram followings in all the W, and they played each other in a national championship in college a couple of years ago. I mean, it's not necessarily a rivalry yet, although kind of an episode like we had on Saturday maybe adds to it. I would say looking forward, though, I mean, the Fever won that game in blowout fashion by 35-plus points. So I think Angel and the Sky would tell you this, for it to really be a rivalry, though, they would have to hold up their end of the bargain. And, as we look ahead, NBA-wise, Pacers, Knicks, that one feels more like a rivalry because of a greater sense of history, playing in the playoffs, going 7 games last year, and then for fans who are around to remember the great matchups back in the 90s into 2000 or so. That's what makes a rivalry. But someone like Caitlin Clark, she was talking over the weekend how she remembers as a kid growing up in Iowa how, her grandfather was a high school football coach, and their rival, she was kind of, raised to hold her breath when the family was driving by in the car because, you don't want to breathe the air from Valley High School. So, I mean, she understands the fun of rivalries and how it's good for fans, but at the same time, here Indiana and Chicago don't really have enough for a rivalry. I think it was definitely a play in which Caitlin was going for the ball. I personally was pretty surprised that it was upgraded to being flagrant, but whatever. I think both Caitlin and Angel wanted to move on, and hopefully cooler heads prevail going forward.
Yeah, sometimes in sports, it's hard for athletes to replicate a really great season, especially when it's a rookie season. But from what we've seen early on, looks like Caitlin Clark's chugging along and she's still getting better. Is there a reason to expect that this season will be even better than the year that she broke all those records and won Rookie of the Year?
Yes, 100%. So as you touched on, she was the Rookie of the Year, and she led not just rookies, but all players in the league last year in assists. And guess what? Their roster right now is significantly better than last year. Among the new additions, Dewana Bonner, for fans who've been following the W for a while, she's now in her 16th season, and actually on Saturday she moved up to 3rd all-time in WNBA history in scoring. And even though she is a veteran, she has, not really had much of a drop-off in her game. Natasha Howard, who previously has been Defensive Player of the Year in the league and has been an all-star and is someone who is really just an incredible athlete and has the ability to run the floor, which is perfect to go along with Caitlin, who always wants to be pushing it. So those are just a couple of the key pieces. I mean, actually, Sophie Cunningham was unable to play due to a minor ankle injury on Saturday. She's another one who I think is going to really fit in well here and make an impact. So just the fact that there's more weapons, so to speak, around Caitlin, I think gives you a reason to think she's going to take things to another level this year. Not to mention, it was really tough last year for her and for all rookies because you literally only have a couple of weeks going from playing, in her case, the national championship to being drafted and then being thrust into training camp. No break, basically, whereas this year, she was not one of the players who competed in the unrivaled league. She didn't play overseas anywhere. She just trained, and specifically she spent a lot of time in the weight room, so she feels like she's stronger too. So those are just a couple of the main reasons why I think Caitlin Clark is going to be, not just rookie of the year like she was last year, but now like an MVP candidate.
We're talking with John Nolan. He is the play-by-play voice of the Indiana Fever. So when you talk about this Fever team, and I know you touched on it, this is, the shift change we've seen in the talent level and their ability has just gone through the roof. This is a team that certainly has all the talent to win the WNBA title this year. I believe they have the second best odds right now in the entire league. What did Caitlin Clark learn during her rookie season that will help her elevate her game? Part of it I know is getting stronger, but what else did she take from that rookie season where she was targeted a lot of games?
Yeah, I think one thing was that she needed to be, she's talked about most often probably, is that she needed to get stronger because, as you'd expect, it's just a more physical game. You go from college basketball featuring 18 to, nowadays, I guess 23, maybe some 24-year-olds. But, the WNBA, it's going to be those 22-year-olds to players into their 30s. So I think that was the main thing. I should touch on as well, in addition to adding new weapons on the roster, it's also a new coaching staff led by Stephanie White, who, is regarded as really one of the best minds in the game. She's an analyst on ESPN with NBA coverage, and then she was coaching the Connecticut Sun the last couple of years, who coincidentally knocked the Fever out of the playoffs last year. And one of the first conversations that Stephanie White had with Caitlin was actually going over the scouting report that Connecticut had in the playoffs last year of how to contain and slow down Caitlin. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing, right, where Caitlin was able to sort of digest, okay, this is how teams are trying to, go against her. How do you make those adjustments? And she has such a high IQ as a player that she's able to understand, okay, yeah, this is what I got to do. So new coaching staff. There's also a new front office. Kelly Crosskopf, she was the original employee of the Fever back in the day, and they won one WNBA title in 2012 with Tamika Catchings as the star player. Kelly was the one who put that team together. She had been spending the last handful of years as an assistant general manager for the Pacers over on the NBA side, actually. So now she's back over with the Fever. They have a new GM, Amber Cox. So, just everything that's been assembled around Caitlin is just, helping to put her in a better position to thrive. And, they still have Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston back from last year, all-star players, Lexi Hull, a good friend of Caitlin's and also one of the best shooters in the league. So, these are the reasons why it's not just like made up hype. Sometimes, obviously, we can kind of fall victim to that sometimes in the sports world, right? There's like legit reasons here to believe in this Fever team.
Yeah, John. So from what I'm reading, it looks like you're relatively new to the organization, but I wanted to ask you if you've gotten to sit down with Caitlin Clark, if you've gotten to interview her, gotten to talk with her a little bit, because I think it's fascinating the way that her personality is, because she's so straight across and so even keeled when it comes to her interviews, but on the court, she can absolutely turn it on. So I'm just wondering what some of your first impressions of her have been, in the first person.
Yeah, in Chelsa, I kind of just missed you because I spent the last 10-plus years working primarily in minor league baseball. I was working with the Pacers G League team too, but yeah, we've got a Wolfpack guy here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, playing on the Padres affiliate here. So, shout out to your pack. But funny enough, actually, the first time I was able to be introduced to Caitlin, she introduced herself to me as, "Hey, I'm Caitlin." And, that's one where I got to kind of, bite my tongue from saying, like, yeah, I know you're one of the most famous athletes in the entire world, but I think it speaks to the fact that she is a truly humble, down-to-earth person who, at the end of the day, was raised by a great family and has not let the fame and attention, change who she is. And I actually joked with her, if you might remember last year, in the fall, there was a video that went out of one of her teammates recorded her as she was watching a random Phillies-Brewers game on MLB Network. She was just like bored and just started doing play-by-play of it, even though she's actually a Yankees fan, so she wasn't really familiar with the Brewers and the Phillies. But I say this as a play-by-play broadcaster, she has like the natural ability to do play-by-play as well. So I joked with her. I was like, "Oh, you're pretty good in that video." And she's like, "Oh, that's nothing. I can do a better one." So yeah, just like lighthearted at the same time, though, like has the ability clearly to flip the switch and, kind of lock in and be intense, whether it's how she handles sometimes, a tough question or obviously the way that she plays on the floor. So yeah, happy to share that. The Caitlin, who looks like just a fun-loving player on the court, comes across that way behind the scenes too.
He is the play-by-play voice of the Indiana Fever. Follow him on X at John_G_Nolan. It is John Nolan. John, thanks for the insight this morning. We really appreciate it.
Michael and Chelsa, I really appreciate the chance to join you guys. And yeah, if game number one, Caitlin Clark, a triple-double and a runaway win was kind of setting the tone, I'm pretty pumped up here for this W season and hope to be able to talk to you guys again in the future.
Absolutely. Look forward to your calls, and we will definitely talk to you again this year, no doubt about it. Thank you, John.